Chapter 16. At that time, Kadur Laumar, sovereign of Elam, sent to all the neighboring sovereigns, to Nimrod, sovereign of Shinar, who was then under his power, and to Tidal, sovereign of Guyim, and to Aryuk, sovereign of Alazar, with whom he made a covenant, saying, Come up to me and assist me, that we may smite all the towns of Sodom and its inhabitants, for they have rebelled against me these 13 years. And these four sovereigns went up with all their armies, about 800,000 males, and they went as they were, and smote every male they found in their way. And the five sovereigns of Sodom and Amorah, Shinab, sovereign of Admah, Sham-abar, sovereign of Zaboim, Barah, sovereign of Sodom, Birsha, sovereign of Amorah, Bala, sovereign of Zuar, went out to meet with them, and they all joined together in the valley of Siddim. And these 9 sovereigns fought in the valley of Siddim, and the sovereigns of Siddim and Amorah were smitten before the sovereigns of Elam. And the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and the sovereigns of Elam pursued the sovereigns of Siddim. And the sovereigns of Siddim with their armies fled and fell into their tar pits, and all that remained went to the mountain for safety. And the 5 sovereigns of Elam came after them and pursued them to the gates of Sadum. And they all took that there was, and they took all that there was in Sadum. And they plundered all the cities of Sadum and Amorah. And they also took Lot, Abram's brother, Zban, and his property, and they seized all the goods of the city of Sadum. And they went away, and Unik, Abram's servant who was in battle, saw this and told Abram all that the sovereigns have done to the cities of Sodom, and that Lot was taken captive by them. And Abram heard this, and he rose up with about 318 males that were with him. And that night he pursued these sovereigns and smote them, and they all fell before Abram and his males, and there was none remaining but the 4 sovereigns who fled, and they went each his own way. And Abram recovered all the property of Sodom, and he also recovered Lot and his property, his wives and his little ones, and all belonging to him, so that Lot lacked nothing. And when he returned from smiting these sovereigns, he and his males passed the valley of Siddim, where the sovereigns had fought together, and Barah, sovereign of Sadum, and the rest of the males that were with him went out from the tar pits into which they had fallen to meet Abram and his males. And Adoni-Zedek, sovereign of Yerushalayim, the same was Sham, went out with his males to meet Abram and his people with bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Malak. And Adoni-Zedek Barak Abraham, and Abram gave him 1/10 of all that he had brought from the spoil of his enemies, for Adoni-Zedek was a Kohan before Elohim. And all the sovereigns of Sodom and Amorah who were there with their servants approached Abram and begged of him to return them their servants whom he had made captive, and to take for himself all the property. And Abram answered the sovereigns of Sodom, saying, As Yahuwah lives, who created the Shamayim and the Arets, and who redeemed my being from all affliction, and who delivered me this day from my enemies, and gave them into my hand, I will not take anything belonging to you, that you may not boast tomorrow, saying, Abram became rich from our property that he saved. For Yahuwah my Elohim, in whom I trust, said to me, You shall lack nothing, for I will barak you in all the works of your hands. And now, see, therefore, here is all belonging to you. Take it and go. As Yahuwah lives, I will not take from you a living being down to a shoestring or a thread, except the expense of the food of those who went out with me to battle, also the portions of the males who went with me, Anar, Ashkul, Mamre, they and their males, also as those who had remained to watch the baggage. They shall take their portion of the spoil. And the sovereigns of Sodom gave Abram according to all that he had said, and they pressed him to take of whatever he chose, but he would not. And he sent away the sovereigns of Sodom and the remainder of their males, and he gave them orders about Lot, and they went to their respective places. And he also sent away Lot, his brother's bond, with his property, and he went with them. And Lot returned to his home and to Sodom, and Abram and his people returned to their home, to the plains of Mamre, which is in Hebron. At that time Yahuwah again appeared to Abram in Hebron, and he said to him, Do not fear, your reward is very great before me, for I will not leave you until I shall have multiplied you, and barak you, and made your seed like the stars in the Shemayim, which cannot be measured nor numbered. I will give to your seed all these lands that you see with your eyes. To them I will give them for an inheritance forever. Only be strong and do not fear. Walk before me and be perfect. And in the 78th year of the height of Abram, and that year Ra'u, Ban of Peleg, died, and all the days of Ra'u were 239 years, and he died. And Sarai, the daughter of Haran, Abram's wife, was still barren in those days. She did not bear to Abram either a bond or a daughter. And when she saw that she bore no children, she took her female servant Hagar, whom Pharaoh had given her, and she gave her to Abram, her husband, for a wife. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai, as Sarai taught her. She was not in any way lacking in following her good ways. And Sarai said to Abram, See, here is my female servant Hagar. Go to her that she may give birth upon my knees, that I may also obtain children through her. At the end of 10 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is in the 85th year of Abram's height, Sarai gave Hagar to him, and Abram listened to the voice of his wife Sarai. And he took his female servant Hagar, and Abram came to her, and she conceived. And when Hagar saw that she had conceived, she greatly rejoiced, but her mistress was despised in her eyes. And she said within herself, This can only be that I am better before Elohim than Sarai my mistress, for all the days that my mistress has been with my master she did not conceive, but Yahuwah has caused me in so short a time to conceive by him. And when Sarai saw that Hagar had conceived by Abram, Sarai was jealous of her female servant, and Sarai said within herself, This is indeed none else other than she must be better than I am. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon you, for at the time when you pallowed before Yahuwah for children, why did you not pallow for my sake, that Yahuwah should give me seed from you? And when I speak to Hagar in your presence, she despises my words because she has conceived, and you will say nothing to her. May Yahuwah judge between you and I for what you have done to me. And Abram said to Sarai, See, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her as seems good in your eyes. And Sarai afflicted her, and Hagar fled from her to the wilderness. And a messenger of Yahuwah found her in the place where she had fled by a well. And he said to her, Do not fear, for I will multiply your seed, for you shall bear a bond, and you shall call his name Yishmael. Now, then, return to Sarai your mistress, and submit yourself under her hands. And Hagar called the place of that well Ba'ar Lahai Rui. It is between Kadesh and the wilderness of Barad. And at that time Hagar returned to her master's house. At the end of the days Hagar bore a bond to Abram, and Abram called his name Yishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when he brought him forth. Chapter 17. And in those days, in the 91st year of the height of Abram, the children of the Hittites fought against the children of Tubal. For when Yahuwah had scattered the Banim and males upon the face of the Eretz, the children of the Hittites went and established themselves in the plain of Canupia. and they built themselves cities there and dwelt by the river of Tibrau. And the children of Tubal dwelt in Tuscanah, and their boundaries reached the river of Tibrau. And the children of Tubal built a city in Tuscanah, and they called the name Sabina, after the name of Sabina, born of Tubal, their father, and they dwell there to this day. And it came to be that at that time the children of the Hittites fought against the children of Tubal, and the children of Tubal were smitten before the children of the Hittites. And the children of the Hittites caused 370 males to fall from the children of Tubal. At that time the children of Tubal swore to the children of the Hittites, saying, You shall not intermarry among us, and no male shall give his daughter to any of the Banim of the Hittites. For all the daughters of Tubal were in those days lovely, for then no female were found in the whole Eretz so lovely as the daughters of Tubal. And all who delighted in the good looks of females went to the daughters of Tubal and took wives from them. And the Banim of males, sovereigns, and princes who greatly delighted in the good looks of females took wives in those days from the daughters of Tubal. And at the end of 3 years after the children of Tubal had sworn to the children of the Hittites not to give them the daughters for wives, about 20 males of the children of the Hittites went to take some of the daughters of Tubal, but they found none. For the children of Tubal kept their oaths not to intermarry with them, and they would not break their oaths. And in the days of harvest, when the children of Tubal went into their fields to reap their harvest, the young males of the Hittites assembled and went to the city of Sabinah. And each male took a young female from the daughters of Tubal, and they came to their cities. And the children of Tubal heard of it, and they went to fight against them. But they could not prevail over them, for the mountain was exceedingly high from them. And when they saw they could not prevail over them, they returned to their land. And at the turn of the year, the children of Tubal went and hired about 10,000 males from those cities that were near them, and they went to fight against the children of the Hittites. And the children of Tubal went to fight against the children of the Hittites to destroy their land and to distress them. And in this battle the children of Tubal prevailed over the children of the Hittites. And the children of the Hittites, seeing that they were greatly distressed, lifted up the children which they had by the daughters of Tubal upon the wall which they had been built, to be before the eyes of the children of Tubal. And the children of the Hittites said to them, Have you come up to fight against your own Banim and daughters? And have we not been considered your flesh and bones from that time till now? And when the children of Tubal heard this, they ceased to fight against the children of the Hittites, and they went away, and they returned to the cities. And at the time the children of the Hittites assembled and built 2 cities by the sea. And they called one Pertu, and the other Arizah. And Abram, born of Terah, was then 99 years old. At that time Yahweh appeared to him, and he said to him, I will establish my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly multiply your seed. And this is the covenant which I shall make between you and I, that every male child be circumcised, you and your seed after you. 8 days old it should be circumcised, and this covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And now, therefore, your name shall no longer be called Abram, but Abraham, and your wife shall no longer be called Sarai, but Sarah. For I will barak you both, and I will multiply your seed after you, that you shall become a great nation, and sovereigns shall come forth from you. Chapter 18. And Abraham rose and did all that Elohim had ordered him, and he took the males of his household, and those bought with his silver, and he circumcised them as Yahweh had commanded him. And there was not one left whom he did not circumcise. And Abraham and his bond Yishmael were circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin. Yishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And in the 3rd day Abraham went out of his tent and sat at the door to enjoy the heat of the sun, the greater light, during the pain of his flesh. And Yahuwah appeared to him in the plain of Mamre, and sent 3 of his ministering messengers to visit him. And he was sitting at the door of the tent, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw 3 males were coming from a distance. And he rose up and ran to meet them, and he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. And he said to them, If I have now found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a piece of bread. And he pressed them, and they turned in, and he gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he placed them under a tree at the door of the tent. And Abraham ran and took a calf, tender and good, and he hastened to kill it, and gave it to his servant Alazar to prepare. And Abraham came to Sarah into the tent, and said to her, Make ready 3 measures of fine meal quickly. Knead it and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat. And she did so. And Abraham hastened and brought them butter and milk, beef and lamb, and he gave it before them to eat, before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done, and they ate. And when they had done eating, one of them said to him, I will return to you according to the time of height, and Sarah your wife shall have a bond. And the males afterward departed and went their ways, to the places to which they were sent. In those days all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all the 5 whole cities, were exceedingly wicked and lawless against Yahuwah, and they provoked Yahuwah with their abominations, and they grew mightily in abominations, and scoffing before Yahuwah. In those days their wickedness and their crimes were great before Yahuwah. And in their land they had a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk, and in it there were fountains of water, a great amount of greenery surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in a year with their wives and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. And in the time of rejoicing they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some of the maiden daughters of their neighbor, and they enjoyed them. Each male saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. And they did so from morning, or Bakar, to night, or Layla. And afterward they returned home, each male to his house, and each female to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to sell there, the people of those cities would assemble, males, females, children, young and old, to go to the male, take his goods by force, giving a little to each male until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, What is this deed which you have done to me? Then they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which you gave me. And he heard this from all of them. He would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of being. Then they would all rise and go after him, and drive him out of the city with a great noise and tumult. And there was a male from the country of Elam, who was leisurely going on the way, seated upon his donkey, which carried a fine blanket of dyed colors, and the blanket was bound with a rope on the donkey. And the male was on his journey, passing through the street of Sadum, when the greater light went down in the Akab, and he remained there in order to stay during the Layla. But no one would let him into his house, and at that time there was in Sadum a wicked male of evil plots, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him and said, From where do you come, and where are you going? And the male said to him, I am traveling from Habrun to Elam, where I belong. And as I passed, the greater light went down, and no one would allow me to enter his house, though I had bread, water, and also straw and food for my donkey, and am lacking nothing. And Hadad answered and said to him, All that you want shall be supplied by me, but you shall not stay in the street all night. And Hadad brought him to his house, and he took off the blanket from the donkey with the rope, and he brought them to his house, and he gave the donkey straw and food, while the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house, and he stayed there that night. And in Bakar the traveler arose early to continue his journey. When Hadad said to him, "Wait, refresh your heart with a piece of bread, and then go." And the male did so, and he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day. And when the male rose up to go, and Hadad said to him, "See now the day is declining, you had better remain all night, that your heart may be refreshed." And he pressed him so that he stayed there all night. And on the second day he rose early to go away, and Hadad pressed him, saying, "Refresh your heart with a piece of bread, and then go." And he remained and ate with him a second day also, and the male rose up to continue his journey. And Hadad said to him, "See now, the day is declining. Remain with me to refresh your heart, and go in the Bakar, and rise early and go on your way." And the male would not remain, but rose and saddled his donkey. And while he was saddling his donkey, the wife of Hadad said to her husband, "See, this male has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall he go away from us without giving anything?" And Hadad said to her, "Be silent." And the male saddled his donkey to go, and he asked Hadad to give him the rope and the blanket to tie it on the donkey. And Hadad said to him, "What are you saying?" And he said to him, "That you, my master, shall give me the rope and the blanket made with dye colors, which you had laid up with you in your house to take care of." And Hadad answered the male, saying, "This is the interpretation of your dream. The rope which you saw means that your height will be lengthened out like a cord, and having seen the blanket dyed with all kinds of colors means that you shall have a vineyard in which you will plant trees of all fruits." And the traveler answered, saying, "Not so, my master, for I was awake when I gave you the rope, and also a blanket woven with dyed colors, which you took off the donkey to put them aside for me." And Hadad answered and said, "Indeed, I have told you the interpretation of your dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation of it. Now the banim of males give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams, and of you I only require 3 pieces of silver." And the male was provoked at the words of Hadad, and he cried bitterly, and he brought Hadad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the male laid his case before Sirach, the judge. When Hadad replied, saying, "It is not so, but so the matter stands." And the judge said to the traveler, "This male, Hadad, tells you the truth, for he is famed in the cities for the accurate interpretation of dreams." And the male cried at the words of the judge, and he said, "Not so, my master, for it was in the day that I gave him the rope and the blanket which was on the donkey, in order to put them aside in his house." And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying, "So the matter was," and the other declaring otherwise. And Hadad said to the male, "Give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that you ate in my house." And the male said to Hadad, "Truly I will pay you for what I ate in your house. Only give me the rope and the blanket which you laid up in your house." And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the male, "Did I not tell you the interpretation of your dreams? The rope means the days shall be prolonged like a cord, and the blanket that you will have a vineyard in which you will plant all kinds of fruit trees. This is the proper interpretation of your dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, and I will make you no allowance." And the male cried out at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge. And the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them harshly from the house. And they went away quarreling from the judge. And then the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered about them, and cried out against the stranger. And they drove him harshly from the city. And the male continued his journey on his donkey with bitterness of being, lamenting and weeping. And while he was going along, he wept at what had befallen him in the corrupt city of Sadum. Chapter 19. And the cities of Sadum had 4 judges for 4 cities, and these were their names: Sirach, and the city of Sadum, Sharkad, and Amorah, Zabnak, and Abma, Manun, and Zabuyim, and Alazar, Abraham's servant, appointed to them different names, and he converted Sirach and Sharkad to Shakrura, Zabnak to Kazubim, Manun to Matsludim, and by desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sadum and Amorah had beds erected in the streets of the cities, and if a male came to the places, that he laid hold of him, and brought him to one of the beds, and by force made him to lie in them. And as he lay down, 3 males would stand at his head, 3 at his feet, and measure him by the length of the bed. And if the male was less than the bed, these 6 males would stretch him at each end, and when he cried out to them, they would not answer him. And if he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end until the male had reached the gates of death. And if he continued to cry out to them, they would answer him, saying, So shall it be done to the male that comes into our land. And when males heard all these matters that the people of the cities of Saddam did, they refrained from coming there. When a poor male came to their land, they would give him silver and gold, and send a call in the whole city not to give him a piece of bread to eat. And if the stranger should remain there some days and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a piece of bread, then at his death all the people of the city would come and take their silver and gold which they had given to him. And those that could recognize the silver or gold which they had given to him took it back. And at his death they also stripped him of his garments, and they would fight about them. And he prevailed over his neighbor and took them. And after that they would carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the desert. And so they did all the days to anyone that came to them and died in their land. And in the course of the time that Sarah sent Alazar to Sadum, see Lot, and inquire after his welfare, Alazar went to Saddam, and he met with a male of Saddam fighting with a stranger. And the male of Sadum stripped the poor male of all his clothes and went away. And the poor male cried to Alazar and pleaded his favor because of what the male of Saddam had done to him. And he said to him, Why do you act this way to the poor male who came to your land? And the male of Sadum answered Alazar, saying, Is the male your brother, or have the people of Sadum made you a judge this day, that you speak about this male? And Alazar strove with the male of Saddam because of the poor male. And when Alazar approached to recover the poor male's clothes from the male of Sadum, he hastened with a stone and smote Alazar on the forehead. And the blood flowed exceedingly from Alazar's forehead. And when the male saw the blood, he caught hold of Alazar, saying, Give me payment for having rid you of this bad blood that was in your forehead, for such is the custom and the law in our land. And Alazar said to him, You have wounded me, and require me to pay you your payment? And Alazar would not listen to the words of the male of Saddam. And the male laid hold of Alazar, and brought him to Sharkad, the judge of Saddam, for judgment. And the male spoke to the judge, saying, Please, my master, so has this male done, for I smote him with a stone, so that the blood flowed from his forehead, and he is unwilling to give me my payment. And the judge said to Alazar, This male speaks true to you, give him his payment, for this is the custom in our land. And Alazar heard the words of the judge, and lifted up a stone, and smote the judge. And the stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed exceedingly from the forehead of the judge. And Alazar said, If this then is the custom of your land, give to the male what should be given him, for this has been your decision, you decreed it. And Alazar left the male of Sodom with the judge, and he went away. And when the sovereigns of Elam had fought against the sovereigns of Sodom, the sovereigns of Elam captured all the property of Sodom, and they took Lot captive with his property. And when it was told to Abraham, he went and fought against the sovereigns of Elam, and he recovered from their hands all the property of Lot, also as the property of Sodom. And at that time the wife of Lot bore him a daughter, and he called her name Paltith, saying, Because Elohim had delivered him and his whole household from the sovereigns of Elam. And Palit, daughter of Lot, grew up, and one of the males of Sodom took her for a wife. And a poor male came into the city to seek a livelihood, and he remained in the city some days. And all the people of Sodom sent a call, as was their custom, not to give the male a piece of bread to eat until he dropped dead upon the arets, and they did so. And Paltith, the daughter of Lot, saw the male lying in the streets, starved with hunger, and no one would give him any matter to keep him alive, and he was just upon the point of death. And her being was filled with pity because of the male, and she fed him secretly with bread for much days. And the being of this male was revived, for when she went out to fetch water, she would put the bread in the water pitcher, and when she came to the place where the poor male was, she took the bread from the pitcher and gave it to him to eat. So she did much days. And all the people of Sodom and Amorah wondered how this male could bear starvation for so much days. And they said to each other, This can only be that he eats and drinks, for no male can bear starvation for so much days, or live as this male has, without even his appearance changing. And 3 males concealed themselves in the place where the poor male was stationed, to know who it was that brought him bread to eat. And Paltith, daughter of Lot, went out that day to fetch water, and she put bread into her pitcher of water, and she went to draw water by the poor male's place, and she took out the bread from the pitcher and gave it to the poor male, and he ate. And the 3 males saw what Paltith did for the poor male, and they said to her, It is you then who has supported him, and therefore he is not starved, nor changed in appearance, nor died like the rest. And the 3 males came out of the place in which they were concealed, and they seized Paltith, and the bread which was in the poor male's hand. And they took Paltith, and brought her before their judges, and said to them, Thus did she do, and it is she who supplied the poor male with bread, so he did not die all this time. Now therefore declare to us the punishment due to this female for having transgressed our law. And the people of Sodom and Amorah assembled and kindled a fire in the street of the city, and they took the female and threw her into the fire, and she was burned to ashes. And in the city of Admah there was a female to whom they did the same. For a traveler came into the city of Admah to stay there all night, with the intention of going home in the Bakar, and he sat opposite the door to the house of the young female's father to remain there. And as the greater light had gone down, when he had reached that place, the young female saw him sitting by the door of the house. And he asked her for a drink of water, and she said to him, Who are you? And he said to her, I was walking on the way today, and reached here when the greater light went down, so I will stay here all night, and in the Bakar I will rise early and continue my journey. And the young female went into the house, and brought the male bread and water to eat and drink. And this matter became known to the people of Admah, and they assembled and brought the young female before the judges, so that they should judge her for this deed. And the judge said, The judgment of death must pass upon this female, because she transgressed our law, and this therefore is the decision concerning her. And the people of those cities assembled and brought out the young female, and rubbed her with honey from head to foot, as the judge had decreed, and they placed her before a swarm of bees, which were then in their hives. And the bees flew upon her and stung her so that her whole body was swollen. And the young female cried out because of the bees, but no one took notice of her or pitied her. And the cries went up to the Shamayim. And Yahuwah was provoked at this in all the works of the cities of Sadum, for they had a great amount of food, and had peace among them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy. And in those days their evil doings and crimes became great before Yahuwah. And Yahuwah sent two of the messengers that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. And the messengers rose up from the door of Abraham's tent after they had eaten and drunk, and they reached Sodom in the Akkad. And Lot was then sitting in the gate of Sodom when he saw them, and rose to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground, and he pressed them greatly, and brought them into his house. And he gave them food which they ate, and they stayed all the night in his house. And the messengers said to Lot, Arise, go out from this place, you and all belong to you, lest you be consumed in the iniquity of this city, for Yahuwah will destroy this place. And the messengers laid hold upon the hand of Lot, and upon the hand of his wife, upon the hands of his children, and all belonging to him. And they brought him out, and put him outside the cities. And they said to Lot, Escape for your height. And he fled, and all belonging to him. Then Yahuwah rained upon Sodom and Amorah, and upon all these cities, sulfur and fire from Yahuwah out of the Shamayim. He overthrew these cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities. That which grew upon the ground, and Adu, the wife of Lot, looked back to see the destruction of the cities, for her compassion was moved because of her daughters who remained in Sodom, for they did not go with her. And when she looked back, she became a post of salt, and it is still in that place to this day. And the oxen which stood in that place licked up the salt to the end of their feet. In the Bakar it would spring forth anew, and they would lick it up still to this day. And Lot and two of his daughters that remained with him fled and escaped to the cave of Adullam, and they remained there for some time. And Abraham rose early in the Bakar to see what had been done to the cities of Sodom. And he looked and saw the smoke of the cities going up like the smoke of a furnace. And Lot and his two daughters remained in the cave. And they made their father drink wine, and they lay with him, for they said there was no male upon the Eretz that could raise up seed from them, for they thought that the whole Eretz was destroyed. And they both lay with their father, and they conceived and bore Banim. And the firstborn called the name of her bond Moab, saying, From my father I conceived him. He is the father of Moabites to this day. And also the younger called her Ban Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. And after this, Lot and his two daughters went away from there, and he dwelt on the other side of the Yarden. And his two daughters and their Banim and the Banim of Lot grew up, and they went and took for themselves wives from the land of Canaan, and they brought forth children, and they were fruitful and multiplied. Chapter 20. And at that time Abraham journeyed from the plain of Mamre, and he went to the land of the Pelashites, and he dwelt in Gerar. It was in the 25th year of Abraham's being in the land of Canaan, in the 100th year of the height of Abraham, that he came to Gerar in the land of the Pelashites, and when they entered the land, he said to Sarah his wife, Say you are my sister to anyone that shall ask you, in order that we may escape the evil of the inhabitants of the land. And as Abraham was dwelling in the land of the Pelashites, the servants of Abimelech, sovereign of the Pelashites, saw that Sarah was exceedingly good looking, and they asked Abraham concerning her, and he said, She is my sister. And the servants of Abimelech went to Abimelech, saying, A male from the land of Canaan is come to dwell in the land, and he has a sister that is exceedingly lovely. And Abimelech heard the words of his servants who praised Sarah to him, and Abimelech sent his officers, and they brought Sarah to the sovereign. And Sarah came to the house of Abimelech. And the sovereign saw that Sarah was good looking, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he approached her and said to her, What is that male to you with whom you came into our land? And Sarah answered and said, He is my brother. We came from the land of Canaan to dwell wherever we could find a place. And Abimelech said to Sarah, See, my land is before you. Place your brother in any part of this land that pleases you, and it will be our duty to exalt and elevate him above all the people of the land, since he is your brother. And Abimelech sent for Abraham, and Abraham came to Abimelech